Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Puzzle Pieces webinar. We will get started in just another minute. We still have some people logging in, and we still have a presenter logging in. So as soon as I see the logging in slow down a bit, we'll go ahead and get the presentation started. Thanks for joining us today. For those of you who are just joining us, this is the Puzzle Pieces webinar. We will get started in just a few seconds here, letting everybody get logged in. Okay, well, it looks like the logging in has slowed down, so we will go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. My name is Kim Brown. I'm with the Rural Institute Transition and Employment Projects, and I will be your moderator for today's webinar. This webinar is sponsored by the University of Montana Rural Institute Transition and Employment Projects and is funded in whole or in part under a contract with the Montana Department of Public Health and Human Services. The statements shared in today's presentation do not necessarily reflect the opinion of the department. All attendees are muted and will be throughout today's presentation. If you want to ask one of the presenters a question or make a comment, please type your question or comment into the chat box. If you don't see that box on your screen, look to the upper right-hand area and you should see a white arrow inside of an orange or red box. If you click on that, it will open up a dashboard and there should be a question or a chat box in there, and you can type your questions right into that box or your comments. Please note that only you, myself, and the presenters will be able to see what you've typed into the chat box, so I will be reading questions aloud. That way all the audience members will know what's being asked. We will have time for questions and answers after each of the presenters, and then we'll have question and answer time at the end of today's session as well. For those of you who requested Montana Office of Public Instruction renewal units when you registered, those will be emailed to you after the webinar, and it can take up to a couple of weeks for us to get those sent out. Please note that you do have to have pre-registered in order to receive the OPI credit, and also we are unable to issue other kinds of attendance documentation at this time. Today's session is being audio taped for the Rural Institute Transition and Employment Projects Resource Library. And later on in the presentation, I will put that website URL or website address in the chat box so that you can see where to go if you want to access the recording from today. And the slides for today's webinar are currently posted in the handouts section. So if you open your dashboard box, you should see handouts, and a PDF version of the slides for today is posted there right now if you're interested in downloading the slides or printing any of them off. We do encourage you to visit the webinar archives on our Transition and Employment Projects website. Over the years, we've presented sessions on a variety of transition-related topics, including customized employment, transportation, healthcare transition, assistive technology, lots of other topics that you might find relevant and interesting. So do take time to visit our archives if you have a chance. When you log out of today's webinar session, a short survey will pop up. Please take the time to answer those questions. I think we have 8 questions today, and we do read through all of the responses. We use those to try to improve the sessions that we offer, and also we use those to decide what topics we should address in future webinars. So when the survey link pops up, please take time to answer those questions for us. We're very fortunate today in that we have a panel of presenters. These are all members of the Rural Institute Consumer Advisory Council. And I will give you a little bit more information about each presenter as their time to present arises. But just to let you know who we have on board today, we have Jan and Metalia Struthoff, Sierra Lodi, McLean Birmingham, Tracy Philbach, and Malia Skinner. And again, I'll tell you more about each person before they present. So with that, we'll go ahead and move into puzzle pieces, putting together the picture of adult life. The topic of today's webinar is transition. And when we talk about transition, life is filled with all sorts of different transitions, right? We have the transition when kids move from being at home into preschool or into daycare, and then when they move into elementary school, when they move into high school. For today's webinar, we're primarily looking at the transition from high school into adult life. And the goal of transition that we'll be talking about today is that young people are going to make that movement from high school into adult life as seamlessly as possible, and that they'll move into rich, meaningful adult lives and have the supports in place so that they can be as successful as possible. Excuse me. So when we think about transition and when to start, I have a picture of a baby on here because when somebody brings a baby into the family, usually that dreaming about the future begins pretty early on. You know, what's this baby going to grow up to be interested in? Will they want to be a dancer or a football player or a doctor or a president or an attorney, or will they want to save animals? We have all these ideas and dreams and hopes, and usually from a very young age we start exposing our kids to lots of different experiences, giving them a chance to try different classes, to try painting, to have different opportunities, to take some trips, to see different places in their community and in their state and in their country. And that feeds into transition because the more opportunities, the more exposure, the more experiences a young person can have from the time they're very, very little, the clearer that vision and the more expansive that vision for the future will be. So when we talk about preparing for transition and when to start, we're talking about starting at the very beginning, at the baby stage. And transition to what? What do we mean? Well, what is the young person's day going to look like when they no longer go to school? Maybe they aren't living at home anymore. What's their day going to look like without parents there, without other family members there? Are they going to work? Are they going to go to school? Where will they live? What will they do for fun? How will the hours of their day be filled if they're not at work or school? What about friends? Who will provide the supports that the parents and the family and the school used to provide? So these are all questions that we want to think about as we're looking at preparing for, planning for transition to adult life. On this slide, I put preparing for a smooth-ish transition because I don't know that anybody has a truly smooth transition from high school into adult life. And I think sometimes we expect that there won't be any bumps in the road, and then when those bumps happen, when we come across the inevitable bump, we think, oh no, this isn't going to work, we have to totally change direction. Well, really, there are always going to be those bumps, and so we have to figure out how to either get over them or go around them. How can we do that? How can we prepare for as smooth a transition as possible? Well, having a clear vision of the outcome. What is it that this young person wants to do? Where do they want to live? What do they want their adult life to look like? How can we, if we are family members or service providers or educators, support that young person to self-manage, to initiate as much as possible, to do as many things for themselves as they can? How can we help them to understand what their ongoing support needs might be and how they can get those supports met? How can we connect young people up with the resources that might be available in their community, in their country? How can we make sure that people are connected early on so that they can begin to develop the relationships that will carry them through this transition process and into rich, meaningful adult lives? How can we creatively blend the supports that are out there, recognizing that there probably are not going to be all of the resources that any young person needs to be as successful as they would like? So how do we take what's there and weave those resources together in a way that will help this individual be successful? And as I mentioned earlier, we want to offer as many opportunities for exposure and experience as possible, because that's how when kids start being given interest inventories and other assessments like that, that's how they can begin to even fill those out in a meaningful way. If they haven't been exposed to different kinds of jobs, if they haven't been exposed to different businesses, to different work environments, to different personalities, it will be very hard for the paper and pencil kinds of assessments to be meaningful, because they won't have had enough exposure to even know what it is that they like or want or need. And you'll note that I included even offering the opportunity for failure, because most young people, as they launch out of high school, experience some failures. They may rent an apartment and then realize they don't have enough money to keep paying the rent. They may lose that apartment. That's just part of the learning experience. That's part of growing up. They may get hired for a job and find out it's really not a good fit and need to move on to a different job. That's another part of how we learn, is through having these experiences that maybe don't look like successes, but they can be great opportunities to figure out more about what are the young person's interests, what are the support needs that they might have. Most importantly of all, I think, and I think you will hear this throughout the presentations today, is to have high expectations. If you're a parent, if you're an educator, if you're a sibling, if you're an individual, a young person with a disability, having high expectations is shown over and over again in the research to be one of the most important factors in a successful transition. So have those high expectations. And with that, I would like to go ahead and introduce our first presenter for today, McLean Birmingham. And I'll tell you a little bit about McLean. He's a 2002 graduate of Polson High School. He has been employed at the Northlake County Library since graduating, and he also works a variety of part-time positions, including office management, pet sitting, laundry services, and public presentations dealing with disabilities. McLean has had several years of experience working as a literacy tutor at the elementary school and as a courtesy clerk at a local grocery store. He is a published author and volunteers in his community. McLean is an active member of the Rural Institute Consumer Advisory Council. He served as a representative for the state of Montana regarding national advocacy. McLean lives in his own apartment and enjoys his independence. He is an avid local sports fan and loves animals, music, and WWE wrestling. And with that, I will turn it over to you, McLean.
All right. And hello, everyone. And I am going to relationships are important. When you're in high school, you see your friends every day. You go to classes together. You eat lunch together, and you hang out together. But after graduation, you don't see your friends every day. Some may move away. Jobs, schedules may conflict, or you may not be able to get around to see them. It can get pretty lonely, so it's important to maintain relationships. It's easy to lose contact. There are lots of ways to help keep your relationships going. One thing that I have done is call friends and talk to them on the phone. I went to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for a couple of months over a year ago. I made friends there. We agreed to stay in contact through phone calls since we live so far apart. We have also sent each other gifts during the holidays. Visiting on the phone has kept us close. Some of you may use emails, texts, or whatever works best for you. If you have made some friends at a conference, you can maintain those friendships too. It makes coming to future conferences even more fun, knowing you'll see those friends again. How many of you like getting a birthday card from a friend in the mail? I really like that. One great thing about this one is you can look at it whenever you want to or need to. It helps me at times when I may be feeling lonely or sad. So when you are the one sending the letter or card, your friend is going to feel the same way. Another way of maintaining or building friendships is by inviting friends to hang out with you at your home or go hang with them at their house. I love WWE. I have friends that like it too. We plan monthly parties to get together to watch. We have a blast. If some of you will be moving out of your family's house, you may think that's great, which it is. But remember to maintain that relationship too. Your family was there for you first and will be there for you. Build that relationship by showing and telling them how much you love and care about them from now until forever. These are just a few simple ideas. I know you can come up with some of your own. Just know that it does take time and effort to keep relationships going as you move into adulthood. Don't just sit around waiting for something to happen. Be a friend worth knowing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, McLean. Do any of the audience members have questions for McLean about relationships and this piece of the puzzle moving toward adulthood of keeping relationships? We'll give just a minute in case anybody wants to type in a question for McLean about relationships. Okay, we do have a question for you, McLean. Awesome advice. Who is your favorite wrestler?
What? Who's your favorite wrestler? I don't even see the question in lost. Oh, and who is my favorite WWE Superstar?
Yes.
Now or all time?
How about you do both?
Now would be, again, Triple H, the cerebral assassin, and I like Ryback. And all time would be Hulk Hogan. Hulkamania, my brother.
All right. What was one of the ways you met some new friends that you didn't have previously?
We go to conferences, and I talk to a lot of people when I go out and about, and just be really friendly, and I'm not really nervous to talk to people much at all. So I'll pretty much approach just about anybody.
And I will...
And you never...
Go ahead.
And you never know who will be your next friend.
And I've gotten to watch McLean at a lot of conferences, and he is absolutely right. He is our very best recruiter for emerging leader stories, for advisory council members, for t-shirt sales. He is great at getting out there and meeting people. Next question, McLean. How about disability support groups? Are you part of any of those, or have you been?
What'd you ask again? Sorry, Kim.
Disability support groups. Are you part of any disability support groups, or have you been?
Yes, Prader-Willi syndrome.
Okay, so is there a support group for that?
Yes.
Is that
I think
Go
I
ahead.
think that would be Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where I went to, and the Prader-Willi Association.
Okay. Next question. Do you have set times to call your family, or do you just call whenever you can?
I have between 8 in the morning and 8 at night.
Okay. That's when you call your family?
Yes, to respect and them and their privacy.
Okay. Great. Next question. What do you do if you have a hard time making friends? Or what should you do if you have or if someone has a hard time making friends?
To help them, you mean?
Yes.
You just have to go for it, and it makes it easier. And start by smiling and feeling really happy and waving and all happy and talkative and encourage them to be friendly.
All right. This person writes in and says, thanks for your advice. Great attitude. The next question that came in, McLean, says, what advice would you give on how to talk to adults? And should young people practice talking to adults?
Absolutely.
When you were in high school, did you find it hard to talk to adults?
No.
Okay.
Oh, so sometimes, yes.
And so did you practice?
What?
Did you practice when you were in high school then? Did you practice talking to adults?
Yes.
Okay. We have two more questions for you, McLean, and then we'll move on to our next presenter. The next question is, do you have any suggestions for ways to encourage a young person who is suffering with depression to stay connected with their family members after moving out of the family home? So again, it's a young person with depression who has moved out of their family home, and this person is asking us, do you have any suggestions on how that young person can stay connected with their family members?
They need to just straight up ask their family to come over, and they could also get a counselor to talk to. Okay. And they can talk to their family on the phone.
Are there any things that their family members could do? Like, let's say the young person is so depressed that they don't even want to pick up the phone and call their family. Is there anything that you think the family could do to help connect with their child?
They should always be the ones to visit or call themselves.
The young person or the family?
The family.
Okay. Okay, so the last question, McLean, how difficult was it for you to transition into employment?
I already had a job before I graduated, because in high school I worked a bunch of different work experiences, various work experiences, and I also, which were volunteer jobs, and I also had a paid position all through high school for 4 years with my principal at the high school, taking up garbage like a couple times a week. And don't be afraid to ask for jobs or for things for you to do.
All right. Thank you very much, McLean, for your presentation and for all of your wonderful answers to the questions. And thanks to the audience members for your great questions. We'll go ahead and move on to our next speaker. Is there anything else you wanted to say, McLean?
And thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and introduce Metalia Strudoff. Metalia is going to share with us several more pieces of this puzzle that we're calling the picture of adult life. Metalia has served on the Rural Institute Consumer Advisory Council since 2010. She has participated in a variety of work groups and presented in various venues, most frequently at the annual Montana Youth in Transition Conference. She graduated from Big Sky High School in Missoula in June 2013. Metalia enjoys her 3 jobs. She'll tell you a bit more about those. And she keeps up with selling her pot holders in local businesses. She stays active through adult swimming and rec center classes such as ULA, ULA Power, Bar, and Pilates. In her spare time, and I don't know that she has much of that, Metalia enjoys reading and the fiber arts. She likes the Narnia and Lord of the Rings series of books. She enjoys spin-ins with her mom and is learning to knit the yarn she has spun. With that, we'll go ahead and move on to your slides, Metalia.
My name is Natalia Stuart. I graduated at Metalia Children's Theater. I hand out programs and keeping up to the show. I bought a house in Guatemala. I super boats to the setting crew at the end of the week. We dedicate the house and give the keys to the I work in the writing center at the University of Montana. I help with data entry by entry login in steps. I worked at Inc. It's group where I make photo copies. I prepare lasting files. I help with recycling. I work at being in a boutique. I have many tasks and the first store. Lifelong learning. I took a watercolor painting class at adult decoration.
Great. Thank you very much, Metalia. Do any of the audience members have questions for Metalia? And we'll give people just a minute to type things in, Metalia, and if there are any questions, if you want to answer them out loud or type in your answer, either one will work. Okay, so here's the first question for you, Metalia. Is there a favorite job you have and why?
What's your favorite job?
Ink group.
The Ink Realty Group?
Yeah.
That's your favorite job? Okay. Why is that your favorite job?
Being in boutique.
Being in boutique is a favorite job too?
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes.
Yes. So you like both of your jobs. You have 3 jobs and you like at least 2 of them as your favorites, huh?
Writing is the center.
The Writing Center too. All right, so it sounds like you love your jobs, Natalia. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, the next question that came in, this person says, I'm wondering how you are able to work all these jobs and still have time for fun activities.
Tell them that you use a calendar.
Calendar.
You use your calendar, and that helps you to stay organized, doesn't it? One of the webinars that we have archived from last year or the year before features Metalia as one of the presenters talking about the different ways that she keeps herself organized. It's a great webinar to watch because she describes different fairly low-tech ways that she manages to keep track of all these different activities that she's involved with. And Natalia, here came in a comment that said, thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us. And then one more question before we move on to our next presenter. This person says, how do you get to your jobs? Do your parents take you or do you use public transportation?
Take a bus.
You take the bus. Awesome. And that's also covered in one of our webinars. Again, I think it was maybe a year or 2 ago, and I apologize for not being able to give you the exact date. But Metalia showed the bus cards that she's used over the years and talks about how she learned to use the bus and how she uses it today. And so the last comment, Metalia says, I am so impressed with you. Great presentation. So nice job. Shall we move on to our next presenter, Metalia?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, with that, to look at our next piece of the puzzle, I would like to introduce Jan Strudoff. Jan has served on the Rural Institute Consumer Advisory Council since 2010. As a council member and parent of Metalia, she has presented at parent-to-parent webinars. Jan started working with Ellen Condon, the Rural Institute Transition and Employment Projects Director, in 2009 and has been Metalia's primary transition coach ever since. Jan has explored volunteer and non-paid work experiences for Metalia at the Missoula County Public Library, Missoula Children's Theater, and the Department of Mathematics at the University of Montana. She has served her daughter with job development and job coaching since 2011. In her free time, Jan is studying Biblical Hebrew, Koine, and Homeric Greek. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Jan.
Hello, everyone. This is, we're going to start with a picture of Natalia making her pot holders. She's working independently here. She's sold her pot holders at various businesses around town since 2003, and the demand continues. But I just wanted to start with the picture of pot holders because it started in preschool. And the thought was, Natalia is just so delighted that we're talking about her, so we'll enjoy her joy as we talk about her, which she is one of my favorite topics. So thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, I'm so very happy to take them. We're talking about transition. It's never too early and it's never too late. So I'm just thankful that when she was in preschool, I had the thought of thinking of others. How can Natalia start thinking of others even as she's so young? So we wanted to give back in some way to her preschool teachers. Do you remember this? You put your hands on mine, and I made the pot holders. And I didn't have any expectations. I thought we would be doing this forever. But soon she was putting the loopers on the loom by herself. Next, I opened the spaces in between the loopers so that she knew where to go up and down. And then pretty soon she was doing this on her own. And the big surprise for me was when she took the crochet hook out of my hand and took the pot holder off the loom all by herself. I was just thrilled. So that probably wasn't until elementary school, but then the pot holder truly was a gift from Natalia to her teacher. And then now, of course, this led into a business, but I had no idea when she was in preschool. But still, we were thinking outside of ourselves, a way to serve to other people. And then we also started thinking about chores in preschool. Oh, excuse me, I didn't know how to turn that off my computer. The thought behind the chores was that she needed to hold her own in the household in some way. She had to work in a sustained, mundane task week after week simply because the task had to be done. Again, we had to start with her hands on my hands. So we did laundry, washing, folding, putting away, chopping vegetables, setting the table, all these things. And then I just pulled away. Now she does the laundry of the household, and she makes one meal with very little help, and I continue to pull back on that meal. And I'm anticipating that independence is just around the corner. I should say that she makes breakfast and lunch completely on her own, and then dinner we're working. That's where we're working on right now, is dinners. Then in elementary school, so that was forward thinking with regard to working and writing lists, doing things over and over. In elementary school, we started her in violin lessons and swim team, and the thought behind that was the older kids were doing it, so Metalia would do it. And as Kim said, we just expose our children to different things to see what they like, and that was no different for Metalia. There were some bumps along the way. We had to find the right swim teacher, but when we did, we found one that had a vision for swim team. So Natalia went from private one-on-one lessons to being just another swimmer on the squad. And the teacher I was no longer the teacher, but we hired a teacher for teaching swimming and violin lessons. The swim team setting provided an opportunity for her to learn social skills in the lane with other swimmers, proper locker room etiquette, following directions from her coach, and now as an adult, Metalia swims for Special Olympics, but even more importantly, she's a valued member of the swim team of the Masters Club in Missoula. With regard to violin lessons, she no longer plays in high school orchestra, but she does play at church for the prelude or the offertory. And people really enjoy her serving the church community by sharing her music. In middle school, I became more intentional about thinking about transportation. The first thing I really worked on was walking to wherever she had to go. So learning how to walk alone to the pool and back home again. And then after that, for about the same time, we started venturing out on the bus. And I remember the first day, it was hot, I had forgotten to bring water, and Metalia was resistant to pulling the cord to ask the bus driver to stop for us. So I let it go, and by the time the bus stopped and we got out, we were a mile from home, and it was hot, and we were tired. I was really discouraged. I didn't think she could ever learn it, but we stuck with it. I lowered my expectations. I extended the timeline. I went back to the simple things of having her put her hand on mine. So I pulled the cord, but her hand was on my hand while I pulled the cord. And I taught her to look for landmarks, what color house when to pull the cord for different destinations. Now she rides to speech therapy, bowling, Bean and Boutique, the writing center, all of these places completely on her own. In high school, that's when I started working with Ellen Condon. We started volunteering together as ushers at the community theater, and it was the same thing. She helped me hand out the programs, but now she does it on her own, and she ushers the children's shows completely on her own. I don't go with her. She calls me when she wants to ride home, or if the buses are running, she rides the bus home, or she can even walk home. So all these skills, all these opportunities helped her in that transition from adult life from high school to adult life. I want to end with a story from Natalia's experience in FFA. So next slide, please. Here Metalia is holding a baby chick in her hands. We just took this a couple days ago. In high school, I want to end with this picture though, because in high school a teacher told me, don't put Natalia in FFA or Ag Ed. She won't do well because she's so sensitive with tactile sensitivities. She's sensitive that way. And so I followed that teacher's advice until her senior year. And then I just decided we're going to do Ag Ed, and we jumped in together. We joined FFA, and we took it as a together project. When she got her goat and her chickens in the spring, we went back to the beginning with her hands on my hands as I worked with the animals. But then by August, Metalia was showing her goat at the fair. It was amazing. The judge was watching, and one girl's goat got unruly, and then Natalia's goat got unruly, but Natalia just put her hand out and steadied him. He immediately settled down. And the judge noticed that, and he complimented her later. This spring, 3 years after graduation, we brought home some new baby chicks. I wanted to bring the FFA experience home, so we got a little urban chicken coop, and we have some chickens in our backyard. So we got some new chicks a couple weeks ago, and I didn't have to initiate or encourage or anything. Natalia just scooped up and picked up this baby chick all on her own. No sensitivity to the pecking or the way the feet feel in her hands. She just loved holding that baby chick. So resistance is there, but it gives us an opportunity to develop strategies, to go back and do things that we've done before in a different way, to lower expectations or extend the timeline. But it's never an opportunity to give up. I hope that encourages any of you who have young children or young adults going out into their adult lives. Right now, 3 years after graduation, I try to visit each of Metalia's venues at least once a month. When I do, I hear about successes, and then I observe gaps, and I come back in and do some training. For example, one time I rode the bus, and the bus driver told me how she doesn't wait for the bus to come to a complete stop before she approaches the bus. So this could be potentially very dangerous. So I went back and did just a couple of trainings. Just wait until the bus comes to a complete stop, and then approach the bus to get on. And the bus driver later said that she's just doing so much better with that. So it's good to go back in and see how things are going and see if there are gaps, and then talk about them, relearn them. It's always a good opportunity to revisit a skill and move on to greater independence. I would love to take any questions or comments from any of you with young children or young adults. It's never too late to start, to go out, explore, and try new things. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jan. So if any of you in the audience have questions for Jan, please feel free to type those into your question box now, and we'll give just a minute for folks to do that. We do have one comment, Jan. You inspire me as a parent. That's come in from one of the audience members.
Do you know how old the child is or young adult?
We'll see if the person types back in. And other questions for Jan? Okay, the individual who wrote that you inspire them as a parent says, I'm a special ed director for my district and I have 3 children. And then we've had several questions come in. How have you managed the paperwork from the various agencies?
I guess not very well. Yeah, I don't like the paperwork, but I just try to get it done as quickly as possible.
Okay.
I don't know how to answer the question. I'm more interested in getting out there and seeing what Metalia is doing and working with the people who are working with her. Yeah.
Okay. Next question, Jan. How do you know where to start with your young adult child if she's not doing much?
Yeah, this is something that concerns my heart when I see young people not doing much. I would start small. Just start with one thing. And lists, I guess I didn't talk very much about lists, but lists are very important, and calendars. So if your child or young adult doesn't like to go out several weeks ahead of time, just put it on the calendar. It's not negotiable. And then write a list of what will happen, or do a role play of what kinds of things might happen, and just get prepared for when that date comes. And then when it happens, take photos so that you can talk about it later. But don't negotiate it. Just do it, and if you're only there for 3 minutes, it's okay. Then go home and talk about it. And then next time, try to be there for 5 minutes. Does that help? I don't know.
Sounds great to me. We'll see if the questioner writes in any further questions around that.
Yeah, I'd like to talk to them more about it.
Okay. The next question, Jan. How did you identify the specific volunteer opportunities? Were they interests of Metalia's?
Yes, yes. That's a big thing with Ellen. Find out where you already are going and try to volunteer where you're going. So we go to the library a lot, so we tried to volunteer at the library. Natalia loves plays, so we tried to volunteer at the theater. Yes.
Okay.
So we didn't introduce, it was not introducing a new place, it was just introducing a new activity at that place. Good question.
And the person who had asked the previous question said that yes, you did answer the question that they were posing.
Oh, good. Yeah. Good, good. I wish them all the best as they take these steps.
So we have 3 more questions before we move on to our next presenter. Jan, what process was followed to determine Metalia's work abilities and interests?
She took a lot of tests at school. I'm not sure how helpful they were. For the 2 jobs that I help with, I went in to look at the situation, the environment, learn the job, and try to assess whether it was something that Metalia would be successful doing. So it's more of the experiential approach, and you could definitely look at some of Ellen Condon's webinars. I'm sure they would be very helpful. It's linking the need, ask the business what's not getting done in the office, with the abilities of the person you're trying to find a job for. And you want to make that as good a fit as possible even before you introduce the 2 people, the place and the person come together. You want to set the situation up for success even before you introduce the person to the place. I hope that answers the question. But definitely check out Ellen's webinars.
And so you and Ellen and Metalia were following the customized employment process and using discovery, it sounds like, to help determine and develop these jobs?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, last 2 questions for now. How do we go about purchasing the pot holders?
Oh, well, if you're in Missoula, they're around town, or you can call or write us. I don't know, maybe Kim can give our address. If you're in Missoula, they're sold at the Good Food Store and Butterfly Herbs and Great Harvest Bread and Rockin' Rudy's. But she also has them at home.
So if you're interested and you're not in Missoula, if you want to send me an email, I will get that over to Metalia and connect to you that way.
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
Sound good? Okay. And then the last question for now for you, Jan, what did you find most helpful from school staff or support agency staff while Metalia was transitioning from high school?
Telling me what her strengths and weaknesses were, telling me when gaps in her training, telling me bumps along the way, just keeping the communication open so that I knew what she was struggling with in school. I don't know what to, just that open communication and when people would write and say, well, this happened, I hit some resistance, and they asked for tips, and they we worked together to get over that resistance. They told me what worked at school, and I told them what worked at home, and we figured something out together. We were a team. I hope that answers the question.
All right. Thank you, Jan. Did you have any other comments that you wanted to make?
No, thank you. I wish I could see all your eyes for the webinar. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Jan, for all of the excellent information. And we will go ahead and move on to our next presenter. And I will just tell you a little bit about Sierra, and then she will have more information to introduce herself. Sierra will tell us a bit about another piece of the puzzle. Sierra was appointed to the National Youth Leadership Network in 2002 in Washington, D.C., and appointed to the National Youth Leadership Network Advanced Institute in 2005. Sierra was awarded the 2005 Emerging Leader Award from the Montana Council on Disabilities, Montana State University. Most recently, Sierra attended the Pacific Leadership Academy's training conducted by the Pacific Alliance on Disability Self-Advocacy in San Francisco. Sierra is passionate about mental health issues as they affect youth who have disabilities and are transitioning into the adult world. Sierra has a website that promotes her motivational speaking business, and I think she'll tell you a little bit more about that as well. We don't have time on today's webinar for Sierra to do her mental health presentation, but she has done that for us in the past, and it's an outstanding presentation. So if mental health is an area that you're interested in, I encourage you to get in touch with Sierra through her business and perhaps see about getting a presentation from her. So with that, take it away, Sierra.
My name is Sierra Lodi, and I live in Helena, Montana. My passion is advocating for people who have disabilities, especially youth who are transitioning into adult life. I serve on 2 advisory boards. I received an Associate of Arts degree in 2012 from the University of Montana, College of Missoula. I purchased my own home in Helena with my Section 8 voucher in 2013. And I started my own motivational speaking business in 2014. I have a website promoting my business at www.speakingoutofthebox.com. I have cerebral palsy, quadriplegia, and I cannot talk. I use this iPad technology to speak and to write. Technology has enabled me to accomplish many things. I love going to music concerts, plays and movies, traveling, and social media. Why did I want to go to college? Look at me, I cannot speak, use my hands or walk. Do I look like I am capable of doing anything that would be meaningful? Do I look like I am intelligent? Probably not. If I showed you my college degree, would that change your mind? Probably it would. Being well educated proves that you are smart enough to do something productive and to pay it forward, so to speak. I not only had the need to prove to other people that I could do college work, I really needed to prove it to myself. It was 4 years from the time I graduated high school until I realized I needed to get a college degree. I knew I hated the possibility of doing office work the rest of my life. I wanted to be involved in helping other youth who have disabilities. I wanted to let them know that their futures could be bright, and I wanted to be involved on a personal level. So here I am talking to you about going to college. I do like speaking. You are probably asking yourself, just how did I do it? My vocational rehabilitation counselor believed in me, and she believed in my employment goal of being a motivational speaker. Vocational rehabilitation paid for my tuition, as long as my grades were good. I applied for a Pell Grant every year, and that helped with my living expenses. You do not have to pay back a Pell Grant. At the University of Montana in Missoula, I was able to stay in Panzer Hall, a handicapped accessible dorm. It was one of the newer dorms on campus and quite nice. It had a bathroom with a large roll-in shower. Most of the classroom buildings had elevators. If you wanted to take a class that was not in an accessible room, they would move that class to a room that was accessible. I met with a disabled student services coordinator at the university. She was awesome and told me about the accommodations that are provided students who have disabilities. All of my textbooks could be put on disc so that I could listen to the text instead of having to read it. I could have a note taker, I could have extra time for tests, and most important for me, I took several classes online. That meant I didn't have to be at a certain place on campus at a certain time, and my studying schedule could be very flexible. I met with a disabled student services coordinator at the university. She was awesome and told me about the accommodations that are provided students who have disabilities. All of my textbooks could be put on disc so that I could listen to the text instead of having to read it. I could have a note taker, I could have extra time for tests, and most important for me, I took several classes online. That meant I didn't have to be at a certain place on campus at a certain time, and my studying schedule could be very flexible. The degree that I have normally takes 2 years of study for a student who does not have a disability. I could only handle 2 classes per semester, so it ended up taking me 6 years. That sounds like a long time, but I was able to experience the activities of college life, making new friends, living in a dormitory, going to concerts and sports events. Go Grizzlies! I experienced the independence of living away from home, and enjoyed the fun things that a college town had to offer. I was extremely happy to find out that a couple of my professors were more than willing to make the classes I was taking more meaningful to me personally. For example, my social work professor had me do a presentation to 4th grade elementary students on what it is like to have disabilities, and how I use technology to talk and to write. He gave me this assignment instead of having to do a 6-page essay. I loved speaking to the kids, and they sure loved having me in their classroom. And I sure liked not having to write the essay. I also had a math professor and a writing professor who customized their classes to be more meaningful for me. So you see, there certainly was some flexibility by 3 of my professors that made it possible for me to succeed. My graduation gift from my parents was a trip to Los Angeles to the Nokia Theater to see the top 10 American Idol contestants who were on summer tour. That was the year that Philip Phillips won. The concert rocked. From LA, we went on to experience Las Vegas. The trip was truly awesome. So you see, it was not easy for me to go to college, but it was certainly possible. It took a long time, and a lot of hard work. Now, I can have the type of career I want. I am an advocate for myself, but more rewarding than that, I can advocate, in so many ways, for other youth who have disabilities, to be all that they can be.
Any questions for Sierra? This is her mom. It's a little hard for her to be spontaneous in her answers, so I will read her mind and try and answer them as best as I can.
Okay, thank you very much, Sierra. And we'll give a minute for folks to type in questions. We have a comment so far, Sierra. Impressive presentation. Well done.
She said thank you.
And while folks are typing in questions, I will let you know that usually Sierra completely runs her own show, and she doesn't have to rely on me to change the slides for her. So I apologize, there was a glitch there. I moved the slide at the wrong time. That's completely me, not Sierra. She's actually an excellent slide mover when she does it on her own. So my apologies, Sierra. Okay, the questions are rolling in. Do all colleges have a disabled student services department?
I'm thinking that they're moving in that direction, but the best way is to use online websites. There is a lot of information out there on which colleges and universities do have disabled student services and accommodations, and that was, fortunately for us, since we do live in Montana anyway, that the University of Montana is very accommodating. But the best way is to use the internet to research it.
And the Think College website is a great place to visit if you haven't been there and you're interested in looking at college or post-secondary education. Again, that's Think College. Next question. Thanks for showing us self-determination, going after your dreams and goals, amazing grit. What was the hardest part of getting others to believe in your dreams?
You know, for Sierra, it wasn't, believe it or not hard. She had a fantastic IEP team in high school, and they all recognized her intellectual abilities, and they all thought that she took a little time off in between, but they all thought that that was something that was in her future.
Okay. Next question, how did you maintain momentum and keep from getting discouraged as classes became more difficult?
Yeah, well, it takes a village to raise a college student with disabilities. I think encouragement from friends and family and caregivers and professors, and see, as Kim said, Sierra does suffer from bipolar depression, and so it was a journey of encouragement, of hardships, of you know, just pushing on, because she could only take 2 classes per semester because the output was so demanding. That's all she could handle, and so yeah, she comes by it kind of naturally, and it's inherited just to stick with things. So
Great, thank you very much. Any other comments that Carol, you or Sierra, you would like to make?
I think early on in preschool, Sierra was introduced to a computer. That would have been 1986. Her preschool teacher was very forward-thinking and started her on cause and effect with computer software. And in her ability to manipulate the electronics, the technology, it became aware to a lot of people early on that that technology was Sierra's pathway to a successful life.
Great. All right. Thank you very much, Sierra, for your presentation. And thanks, Carol, for your assistance in answering the questions. With that, we'll go ahead and move on to our next presenter, Tracy Philbach. And I'll tell you a little bit about Tracy. She will bring in the transportation piece of the puzzle. Tracy graduated from Corvallis High School in 2005. She still lives in the Bitterroot Valley and has held jobs at the Discovery Care Center and the Bitterroot Star newspaper. Tracy currently works for a friend who owns mules. She helps show the mules and cares for them when the friend is gone. Tracy has been a member of the Rural Institute Consumer Advisory Council since May 2009. She has served on a number of work groups, including the Emerging Leader Project, Logo Design, and Transition Conference groups. Tracy has recruited emerging leaders, sold Emerging Leader Project t-shirts to raise funds to support the council, and staffed vendor tables at the conferences. Tracy says it is fun to be a member of the Advisory Council. So Tracy, I'd like to talk with you a little bit today about transportation. What are some of the different ways that people can get around in their communities?
They can own their own car, or they can ride the community bus.
Okay. What about walking? Is that another?
Yeah, they can do the bike.
Okay. And we have some other ideas up on the slide, things like senior transit or paratransit. So those are different bus and public transportation options. Ride sharing, carpooling. A PASS is a plan to achieve self-support. That's a Social Security work incentive that can be used to help buy a car for work, telecommuting, which is working from home, so you don't even have to have transportation, using vans or buses owned by religious or other institutions or groups. So those are some other ideas. How do you get around in Hamilton and Corvallis?
I drive my car or I ride with friends.
Okay.
Or sometimes around Hamilton or walk.
Do you have your driver's license then?
Yes.
How did you get your driver's license, and was it hard?
It was very hard. I got it when I was in high school.
Did anybody help you to get your driver's license?
Not really. I just kind of did driver's ed in school, and so that was kind of a help, but the test is really hard to take.
So how did you study for the test? Do you remember?
My driver's ed teacher, it took me like 7 tries to pass for my test, and if I got some wrong, he would study with me, and then I would get them all right the next time.
Okay, so your driver's ed teacher helped you study?
Yes.
Okay. You must have really wanted your driver's license. You said you took the test 7 times till you passed it, huh?
Yeah.
Good for you. All right. So do you have your own car?
Yes, I do.
What are some of the expenses of having a car? What are some of the things you have to pay for when you have a car?
To get your car fixed and gas and insurance.
Okay. So that sounds like it could start to cost a lot of money, huh?
Yes, and then you have to pay for license and all that too for the car.
License and okay. What do you like about being able to drive?
That way I don't have to depend mostly on like my mom or some of my friends to drive me around places. That way I can get around places myself.
Okay. So do you have any advice for other young people who want to learn how to drive and want to buy their own cars?
Not really. It's fun to do, but then again it gets hard to do.
And what gets hard about it?
If you to save up your money for a car.
So it's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to tell the audience members about transportation?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. So for our last slide, we wanted to share the link for the Adapted Illustrated Montana Driver Manual. So for people who might need a little bit of help studying for the driver test, the Adapted Manual is one way that they might get that help. And in Montana, we're told that copies of the manual are available in the public libraries, or it can be downloaded from the link that's on your screen right now. So that's another way to get help if somebody wants to get their driver's license. Are there any questions or comments for Tracy from our audience members? Okay, Tracy, a comment has come in. Great advice and information. I have been blessed by the presentations today. What a wonderful thing to say. Awesome.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments for Tracy? Okay, anything else you wanted to say, Tracy, before we move on to our next presenter?
Nope.
All right, well, thank you very much for your information about transportation today.
You're welcome.
All right. So with that, we'd like to go ahead and welcome McLean back, and McLean is going to share with us another piece of the transition puzzle, health.
Hello again, hey, everyone. When someone says healthcare, usually we think about going to the doctor, but that is only a part of it. I would like to take a few minutes about the healthcare that you can do for yourself. I'm talking about exercise. Some people don't even like the word exercise. I think that I may have felt this way too a while ago. Exercise isn't just doing a bunch of jumping jacks or running for miles, although it could be if you like doing that sort of thing. You can exercise in really fun ways. Often, we may not even think of it as exercise. For example, just dancing to your favorite music in your home is good for you. Jamming in your car is great. Even if other drivers may wonder what you're doing, do it anyway. Get creative when you get together with friends instead of sitting around playing video games or whatever. Try a walking scavenger hunt or go to a playground. They aren't just for kids. You could even bring a kid along. The exercise is good for them too. When you go shopping, don't spend time looking for the closest place to park. Park further out and get the benefit of those extra steps. I've heard my mom tell my dad that this will also get less scratches on your car. I personally have a dog that needs to take walks. This makes my dog happy and helps me too. If you don't have a dog, you can offer to walk a neighbor's. I have benefited so much from consistent exercise. I lost weight and have been able to participate in things I wasn't able to experience before. One of my most recent accomplishments has been climbing cliffs. My last annual checkup had my doctor saying I had some of the best blood work he has ever seen. I know it is because I made the decision to be healthy through exercise and fun activities. It really doesn't matter what you do as long as you consistently do it. Thank you, everyone.
Great suggestions, McLean. Are there any questions or comments for McLean about his health presentation? We have a comment for you, McLean. Good job.
Thank you.
And great advice. Are there any other things that you wanted to share with the audience, McLean?
Well, since I've all my weight total and going to Pittsburgh and being home, I've lost over 100 pounds.
Congratulations. That's been hard work, I'll bet.
And it's been fun because I'm able to do way more things. And I actually was going to do this in my first presentation, but I think I'm going to add a little something that won't take very long because it can be kind of like an exercise. What's up? Look up at this. What's up? Look up at the ceiling. That's what's up.
Are you giving us jokes now, McLean?
Yes.
All right. Okay, well, we did have a couple more questions come in. How did you decide what breed of dog to get? Did you research various dog behaviors?
It's a rescue animal.
Okay. And wow, great job losing over 100 pounds. And then a comment, this entire presentation was by far one of the best presentations I've sat through in a long time because it was all about the students presenting and showing about their lives. Thanks for all of the co-teaching, and 100 pounds, wow, quite impressive. So thank you very much, McLean. And I'll tell you all that unfortunately our final presenter of the day was not able to join us, Metalia Skinner. She was going to talk about Job Corps, and so I'll just skim through her slides here because we are nearing the end of our presentation anyway. Her puzzle pieces included fun and higher education, or the trades. And the reason I'm guessing that Metalia wasn't able to join us is she does have classes all day at Job Corps right now. So she put together these slides to share a little bit about her life at Job Corps and the trades that she's working on. She's a bricklayer working on building walls, working with tile, stone, cement, and marble, and she also does concrete work. She wanted to give you a little tour of Job Corps and some of the things that she does for fun. So here are some pictures of her dorm room and the wing in the dormitory where she's living. And a picture of Metalia with her dorm resident assistant. Here's a picture of the pie eating contest. She says, here is me doing Super Dorm, which is dorm competitions against other dorms, and Sapphire 1, which is Metalia's dorm. Here are some pictures of her input brothers, and I wish Metalia were here to explain that to us, but she's not. She says that she's having lots of fun with her brothers and her boyfriend who she met at Job Corps and her new best friends. This is Tristan, a best friend of hers who she says is weird but helps her to keep going no matter how many times she's wanted to quit. And then she wanted to show a couple of pictures of the projects that she's done in her trade classes. A brick wall that she says took forever. And her latest project, a coffee table for the chair of command, and she did the tile work on this coffee table. She does have some artwork that she wanted to share with us, a piece of art that she did in high school. And she says, please don't judge. She likes to draw creepy things. Other things that she does for fun include drawing, playing pool, playing video games, going on a weekend pass with friends, hanging with her boyfriend, and watching movies like Deadpool. And she finishes by saying, well, that's my life living as an autistic Asperger syndrome kid. It's fun. I'm learning new things every day, building projects, making a huge difference in my life. This has been Metalia Skinner. Oh, and to my fellow advisory council members, my nickname is Zappy, Metalia DJ Zappy. We'll see you guys later, and thanks for everything. And again, I apologize that she wasn't able to be here today. There are other pieces of this puzzle of adulthood that we simply didn't have time to cover today, things like safety, spirituality, sexuality, AT, which is assistive technology, community and community involvement, self-advocacy, housing, money, and financial literacy. So these are all the pieces to be thinking about as you're looking at creating or putting together this picture of adult life. Some additional resources that you might want to access on our Transition and Employment Projects website. We have a number of transition-related resources. We have customized employment information, lots of archived webinars. We have a transition workbook and a healthcare transition guide. The National Parent Center on Transition and Employment is also a great resource with information, timelines, other things that might be helpful to you. And then I've included a couple of housing and mental health resources on there in case you're interested in those specific areas. The slides from today's presentation, as I mentioned at the beginning, are available as a PDF file in the upper right-hand corner of your screen in that Dropbox area, or in that menu area, excuse me, there is a handout section, so you can download the PowerPoint from there as a PDF file. We also will post it to our website along with the recording in case you want to access it there. And we've gone through questions. Just a final comment, a reminder that this project is funded by the Montana Department of Public Health and Human Services, and the statements contained herein do not necessarily reflect the opinion of the department. A short survey will pop up as you exit today's webinar. Please take time to complete that survey. This is our last scheduled webinar of the season under the Children with Special Health Services project. The transition email list members will be notified when the next training calendar is available, and we will also post that on our website. The recording for today's session will be posted to our website, and I've put that website address in your chat box or in your question box, so that should show up on your screen. It can take a week or two to get that recording posted, but do be watching for it if you're interested in watching this again or sharing it with other people. And I would just like to end by thanking all of our fantastic presenters today. I really appreciate your hard work and your willingness to share your experiences, your wisdom, your hearts and souls really with all of our audience members. And thank you to all of the audience members for spending your time this afternoon with us to learn about puzzle pieces putting together the picture of adult life. Have a great day, everyone.